In the end, this wasn't just about Iran's secret plan. It was about how fragile the illusion of control really is. One leak shattered global confidence. One revelation exposed years of deception. But more than that, it confirmed something humanity has ignored for centuries: that the Quran didn't come to sit quietly on shelves. It came as a living guide, a warning, a mirror to our modern chaos. Science caught up with what was already written. Technology finally witnessed what faith had long believed. The shocking part isn't that the Quran knew, it's that we didn't listen. While nations scheme in shadows, the divine truth continues to unfold in broad daylight. We are witnessing not just war and politics, but prophecy. A reminder that no secret stays hidden, no injustice goes unnoticed, and no power, no matter how nuclear, can outmatch the one who sees all. Good luck on your journey to truth, reflection, and courage. And thank you for choosing to see with both your eyes and your heart. Stay awake, stay strong, stay guided. The unveiling of Iran's secret plan didn't just come as a leak, it came like lightning, cracking through a dark sky, sending shock waves through the diplomatic and intelligence communities across the globe. It wasn't just about military operations or surveillance tactics, it was something deeper, something far more precise and premeditated. When the classified information surfaced, it revealed a web of strategic planning years in the making that hinted at ambitions far beyond what the world thought Iran was capable of or even interested in. We're talking about blueprint for dominance, not just survival. Iran's internal documents, intercepted by anonymous sources and shared with intelligence circles, outlined a plan that detailed weapon development, regional influence expansion, psychological operations, and cyber warfare campaigns targeted at multiple Western and neighboring states. It was meticulous, not messy, cold, not chaotic, the kind of plan that makes you realize it wasn't written by warriors. It was crafted by visionaries who saw warfare as chess, not brute force. Governments scrambled, allies questioned one another, mistrust surged. The leak, as experts later confirmed, was not a hoax, not some deep fake or fabricated dossier. It was real and it was terrifying. Iran had allegedly secured technologies that enabled undetectable drone deployment, had forged underground routes for arms transport, had alliances hidden in plain sight. The leak mentioned timelines, targets, potential dates. Countries that once sat comfortably believing they were out of range suddenly felt their knees buckle. This wasn't about bombs alone, this was about influence, deception, and psychological warfare. This was about writing the power script of the Middle East. The leak didn't just stop at plans, it showed intent. A nation that had endured decades of sanctions, isolation, demonization, was preparing to flip the narrative, not through diplomacy but dominance, not through talking but taking. The documents even exposed covert collaborations, alliances that didn't exist on paper but operated through silent agreements and proxy networks. From military installations to strategic cyber attacks, the world realized too late that it had underestimated not just the capability but the patience of Iran's leadership. They waited, they watched, they planned, and now the script was leaking page by page, word by word, into the hands of those who never imagined they'd see it. The response from the international community was swift but scattered. Some denied it, calling it disinformation designed to frame Iran. Others believed it instantly and began troop movements, sanctions, summits, and security protocol updates. What complicated matters even further was how the leak surfaced, not through a recognized intelligence agency, not through whistleblowers, but through digital breadcrumbs scattered across the deep web. It was as if someone wanted this plan to be seen, as if Iran didn't just slip up but allowed the curtains to fall, revealing just enough to shake the foundations of regional peace. As the media scrambled to report facts from fiction, experts began drawing lines connecting the content of the leaked documents to the Quran. Yes, the holy book that's been recited for over 1400 years. You see, the Quran doesn't speak in headlines or file formats, it speaks in signs, in verses, in metaphors that only those with eyes wide open can interpret. Scholars pointed to Surah Al-Anfal, Surah Al-Tabha, and Surah Muhammad chapters that discussed war, strategy, and divine justice. They quoted verses describing how secret plans by disbelievers will be exposed, how conspiracies against truth always lead to divine intervention. These weren't vague spiritual suggestions, they were precise parallels. The Quran says in Surah At-Tariq, indeed they are planning a plan, but I am planning a plan. It struck many observers with awe, because while nations plan in secret, the Creator already knows. The leak, it was no accident. The timing, no coincidence. It felt like divine exposure, like a warning not just to the planners, but to the rest of us who watched history unfold while ignoring the script written in Revelation centuries ago. Iran's plans, regardless of how they were leaked, exposed a reality we've ignored for too long, that when man tries to play God, God reveals just how little man really controls. Now here is where it gets deeper. One of the plans discussed in the leak involved disrupting the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical maritime routes for oil. With just a few tactical maneuvers, Iran could slow or stop the global flow of energy, causing chaos in markets worldwide. Economists began forecasting recessions. Oil prices soared, stock markets quivered, what was once a regional issue quickly became a global crisis. And in the chaos, as always, the common people suffered. Innocent lives caught between governments and greed, between strategy and supremacy. And all the while voices began quoting yet another verse from the Quran. Corruption has appeared on land and sea because of what the hands of people have earned. The scriptures had warned us. And yet, here we stood, surprised by the consequences of our silence. Military analysts compared the plan's sophistication to Cold War era strategies. Every move had a countermeasure. Every attack vector had a psychological trigger. But what made it even more chilling was the spiritual undertone. Iran wasn't just fighting for land or oil or revenge, they believed, or at least their documents suggested, that they were fulfilling a historical responsibility, a divine mission, believed that oppression must be met with resistance. And here's where the rest of the world misunderstood them. Not just politically, but spiritually. The West may have seen nuclear weapons, Iran saw redemption. They weren't just building missiles, they were building momentum. Now, whether this was justified or delusional doesn't even matter anymore, because war doesn't wait for your opinion. It feeds off your confusion. And when you add religion to politics and prophecy to plans, you don't just get war, you get destiny, or the illusion of it. Iran's documents revealed a mind state the rest of the world wasn't prepared to handle. A mindset forged through centuries of oppression, colonialism, sanctions, and demonization. Their plan wasn't just born in a boardroom. It was born in the blood of martyrs, in the whispers of sermons, in the wounds of history. So when it leaked, it wasn't just paper, it was pain. And this is where the Quran again becomes a mirror, because it doesn't just speak to those in power, it speaks to those suffering under it. It reminds tyrants that their secrets will be exposed. It reminds the oppressed that no injustice goes unnoticed. And it reminds the neutral that silence is complicity. Scientists and scholars, for the first time in modern history, began holding seminars and publishing papers connecting Quranic verses to geopolitical trends. Not from a theological point of view, but from a scientific and historical lens. They analyzed how ancient verses about iron and warfare technologies align with the digital weapons of today, viruses, drones, electromagnetic interference. It's all in the book, but we didn't look. Iran's plan, according to the leak, also included plans for deception, setting up false narratives to blame enemies, confuse the media, and even mislead their own people when necessary. This tactic isn't new, but its exposure reminded many of another verse in the Quran. They seek to deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive not except themselves and perceive it not. It's an eerie echo of what intelligence experts call self-sabotage, when your own secrets become your own destruction, when the very brilliance of your plan is what dooms you in the end. The leak also shed light on Iran's deep belief in hidden victories, what some described as divine protection. Their strategies weren't always about winning on paper. They were about holding the moral ground in a world that often sacrifices it for power. And whether you agree with that belief or not, it explained something deeper, that for Iran, this wasn't just war, it was identity, and that makes it harder to stop. You can negotiate a treaty, but how do you negotiate belief? How do you disarm a nation that believes it was chosen to fight? The Quran doesn't give military strategies the way manuals do, but it gives something more powerful. Timeless truth about the nature of man, the reality of conflict, and the destiny of nations that abandon justice. That's what makes this leak so terrifying. It didn't just reveal a plan, it exposed a prophecy playing out. And the ones who are shocked are the ones who never opened the book, because to them it's just scripture. And to those who studied, who listened, who read with both intellect and heart, it was always there. It was there when it warned about nations gathering against one. It was there when it described hypocrisy in leadership, betrayal in alliances, corruption in high places. And it was there when it reminded mankind that no secret is hidden from God. No matter how encrypted your emails are, no matter how deep you bury your files, there's a Lord above the cloud servers. And when He decides to expose, nothing can stop Him. Not your military, not your technology, not your denial. The leak of Iran's secret plan wasn't just a turning point in global politics. It was a mirror. And when the world looked into it, it didn't just see Iran, it saw itself, its greed, its fears, its lies, its silence. And maybe, just maybe, that was the whole point. Because sometimes God doesn't expose to punish. He exposes to warn, to give one last chance to those who plot, to those who follow, and to those who've been sleeping far too long.